I'll sum it all up in one word: authority.
Authority. I love it.
If you can become the authority in your local marketplace, people will bring you all the deals. All the deals will come through you.
Hey everyone, Jamel Gibbs here. Welcome to another podcast episode. Today I have another special guest all the way from the Bama. He's been wholesaling for quite some time. And I know just a couple of years ago, he's been crushing it. I actually met him a few years ago in a mastermind. We became really good friends over the years as well. And I know that he was absolutely crushing it. But at this point in his business, he's starting to make a transition into another form of business, which involves real estate investing. And we'll talk about why this is so important for you today, why it's so beneficial. I'm not going to spill the beans, but it's really important for you to understand what my good friend Brian Trippe is going to talk about on today's call. Brian, what's up, man?
Jamel, I am so honored to be on your show. And I just, heard you just told me that I'm following up Ron LeGrand. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Ron LeGrand is the man. I'll tell you that, man. But I'm sure you're going to provide a lot of great value, which is part of the reason why I wanted to have you on the show anyway, man. You're just a great guy, a rock star, and just absolutely crushing it in business, period. Everybody knows who Brian Trippe is at this point, believe it or not, man. So you're a rock star, man.
I appreciate that. Here's the thing about, I appreciate you saying those words, but man, I just follow in the footsteps of the people that came before me, the people like you that I've been following for a very long time, and all the other guys, and just emulate. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? Just emulate what the people before you did, and just follow in your footsteps, man. I appreciate you,
man. Well, I appreciate that. And just looking forward to having a great call and providing some great content today. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Brian?
Yeah. So I got my start in real estate in 2012, and really I was just, I was driving down the road. I heard the little radio ad come on. What I heard was Robert Kiyosaki is coming to Birmingham to speak. And I'm like, oh, I remember that Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I want to go meet Robert Kiyosaki. Lo and behold, there was no Robert Kiyosaki. It was a seminar pitch. But I went through their program. I didn't know anything about real estate. I learned wholesaling. That's when I first learned about this, 2012. And just went and took the little bit of information that they gave me, ran with it, became on fire for it, devoured anything and everything I could get my hands on, and just went out and just did it. 45 days later, I did my very first deal, made $10,000, and it changed my life because it changed my thinking. $10,000 is probably not going to change anyone's life long term, but it changed my thinking. And that was the most important thing that happened, because I kind of, my story is kind of, my parents got divorced when I was real little, and, just kind of fought fear and insecurity and all these things my whole entire life. Never thought I could be rich. Never thought I wanted to be rich. I resented wealthy people. And when I got that check, it's like this little switch went off inside of me. It's like, you know what? I can do this. I can have things and be, and I was the 30-year-old living in my dad's basement playing video games till 4 a.m., and that was my mentality until I just really got on fire for this real estate thing, went out and had success immediately. It gave me the confidence to keep it going this long. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
And around what time frame was this? You said what year?
Summer of 2012. 2012,
man. So you were obviously able to create a lot of success within a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
Now, when obviously you started with the Rich Dad Poor Dad, same way I started. I actually read that book. I think I was a junior going into my senior year in high school. I read that book. It was right around 1998. Now I graduated in 99. So right around the ending of the school year, 1998, I read that book. That was the first book I've ever read from cover to cover.
Wow.
And because I hated reading. I liked math, but I hated reading. But long story short, it helped me to change my thinking. And I like the fact that you brought that out as well, because your mindset really is everything when it comes to whether you're going to succeed or not. the way you think, and the people you surround yourself with, which is really, really important. And I can't wait till we start talking about that on today's call as well. So you jumped into real estate investing around 2012. You made $10,000 on your first deal, and you got the bug. What happened next?
Well, what happened next? I was a Division I college basketball coach. What happened next? I did that deal in the 1st of October, 2012. I had to go away. I was 2.5 hours away from my home to coach basketball. So I was gone for 6 months. Came back. The coach retired after winning 500 games down at Troy, Alabama. They call it LA, Lower Alabama. So Troy University is where I was in 2012-13. Coach retired. I didn't have a job. So it's like, hey, you know that real estate thing where I made that money? Let's see if we can do this again. So I went and bought about a 6-unit that summer and started fixing up, learning that side of it. And what I quickly realized is that was all I could do. That's all I had the money to do. That's all I had the credit to do because I didn't have a whole lot of anything. So I'm like, how do I get more money so I can invest and do more real estate? Well, hey, you know what? That wholesaling thing, that thing I did where I made $10,000, maybe we should try that again. So it was that next spring, the spring of 2014, where I decided to go all in on wholesaling. And in like you said, a relatively short period of time, 14, 15, and 16 into 2017, really about 3.5 years, did almost 500 wholesale transactions, really blew it up. I don't know of anyone in our area that was doing more volume than us. We were on TV, radio, billboards. I mean, obviously the direct mail. We had more bandit signs. I had this red bandit sign, and the last 4 digits were 2222. And I'm telling you, our phones were blowing up. We had where I'm sitting right now is where we had a 4-person call center, just taking calls from leads. And we were just, the problem though, Jamel, I don't know how much you want to get into this. This is my story.
Let's get into it, man. Let's talk.
The problem is I didn't know and understand how to build a business. It was mainly me. I had some employees, that I was, but I was the guy, and I was running on all the appointments. I hired an acquisition person, but it was still, everything came through me. I was dealing with the buyers. I was going to the closings, and I was just running myself ragged, and we were doing really, really well. But I got burned out. Instead of actually trying to learn how to build a business, I was like, you know what? I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. So you burn yourself out, man. It's kind of funny. I mean, we have similar, the way I got started in real estate. I mean, I kind of grinded myself into the ground by 2006, 2007. I was young, but I was already burned out, and, I totally understand exactly where you're coming from when you're the one wearing all the hats, man. Yeah. It wasn't until I met a friend of mine named David Oswald. He's in New Jersey. He ended up kind of introducing me to outsourcing. And we're going back over 10 years ago now. And, it wasn't like it is today where you can, there's so much stuff you can automate in your real estate investing business these days where you can literally allow people and systems to do all the work for you, right? And you take care of 5 to 10% of the business. I didn't know about that stuff back then. And I'm sure you were probably in that position as well.
So this is probably what gave me a lot of success quickly. And it was probably what led to burnout was I had total tunnel vision.
Gotcha.
I wasn't looking at anyone else. I didn't care about anyone else. I didn't care about competition. I wasn't looking at national masterminds and looking at what the national people were doing. I was like, this thing's working. We're making money. Whew, blinders. And I was blind to everything.
Let's get it.
So, but it kept me focused, and we did a lot of real estate. I just didn't understand that there are a lot of flaws in my business model from a business standpoint.
Understood.
So, but we took that money, we reinvested that money, got up to 77 rentals. My wife was working a job at the time. She was making great money. So we didn't need any of the money I was making off real estate. We didn't need it to live on. So we were just plowing it back into buying real estate. We were up to 77 rentals.
Wow, man.
Before I started selling some, yeah.
So 77 rentals, how long did it take for you to acquire that many rentals?
Yeah, like 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's perfect, man. And from the time that you started, you said it took you 45 days to do your first wholesale deal.
Yep.
And that was after attending that seminar that you went to.
Correct.
You learned about it. What I love about this story is you didn't waste any time. You know,
Totally.
you really went out there and just took action. And what that tells me is, and this is something that's important for us to tell everybody that's listening is, you know, you've heard me say it before. You've heard Brian say it. At the end of the day, you have to take action. Information is great, and attending these podcasts are great. But at the end of the day, you have to take action. If you don't take any action, then you're going to continue to be an information hoarder, and you're not going to be able to get to where you want to go in this business, correct?
Well, Jamel, I think there's a lot of fear there too, right? Mm-hmm. People are like, okay, you know, I see this person doing it, or I heard that, you know, I heard you talk about it. I heard you basically explain the whole thing. I mean, you can go anywhere on YouTube University and learn how to wholesale, right?
Correct.
It's not hard. I mean, the process of it's pretty simple, but it does take a lot of hard work and tenacity. I think where people get tripped up right there is they do have a fear. There's a fear that, oh, well, it might not. A lot of it comes back to the mind, right? Well, maybe it won't work for me, or maybe there's going to be an objection. They're going to say something where I'm not going to know the answer to it, and you kind of get paralyzed. And that's a part of it. So you can listen to and read anything and everything, but until you actually do it, it's never going to happen. I don't know if I've ever had multiple wholesale deals go exactly the same way. Like every deal, kind of there's a little nuance here and there. So even you, Jamel, you've been teaching this stuff for so long. Just because someone listens to everything that you say, there could be a tiny little scenario that pops up that you wouldn't even think to even mention. Mm-hmm. And that's when you just got to get in the fire. Just jump in the fire. There's really not a whole lot that can go wrong when it comes to if you're talking about wholesaling. What can go wrong, really? You could embarrass yourself. Mm-hmm. You could put your foot in your mouth. You could, but like legally, there's really just not a lot of, negative ramifications. So yeah, just do it. And here's for me, I can really just speak for me. I was so just hungry and like everything I was reading, I could not read enough. I was so just, wow, this is brand new to me. I've never heard of this before. And I just went. Someone said, get on Craigslist. You get on Craigslist today, and it's like, it's probably not the same, but like I was just getting on Craigslist. I was picking up the phone, and I didn't know what I was talking about, but after a while, you kind of get it.
You get it.
And there's no substitution for just doing it.
Yep. And it all comes, like you said, man, you gotta get out there and just do it. So you made the transition from wholesaling into building a rental portfolio. You got passive income coming in. How did you make that transition?
Well, they were kind of going hand in hand simultaneously. When I really got burnt, here's the thing. When you get burned out or when you stop wholesaling, you don't just stop wholesaling. There's still leads and marketing that's still out there and people know you. So I'm doing 10 to 20 deals a year, not even trying. Mm-hmm. Just off of, obviously, we host meetup groups and things like that. I'm out there, my name's out there, so people contact me anyway. But I did 20 wholesale deals last year, and I did not spend a dime on marketing. Wasn't trying to do a wholesale deal, and I still did 20 deals. So, awesome. So I'm not really in real estate per se, but I'm still doing deals. But I never really made the transition, I guess, to answer your question. When I stopped, when I cut the marketing off, is because I bought a 59 space mobile home park. So that's the majority of our rentals. Mm-hmm. The economies of scale. It was one deal and it was 59 units. When I did that in December of 2016, that's when I kind of stopped putting all my focus on that and started focusing on more of the rentals and then more of the education, more of the meetup groups types of stuff. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome, man. So you made the transition. And all of this is really, I mean, we're talking over the past, 8 years or so. And, we met in, I believe it was either 15 or 16. You were already crushing it in your market at that point. We met at that mastermind.
Right.
Do you remember when?
Yeah, it would have been because I started doing the education stuff in 2017. So it would have been December 2017. Yeah. So a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah. And I ended up putting a halt to my seminars at that point, I believe in 18, because I was dealing with a lot of things. My mom was sick. She ended up passing in 17. Yeah. But then we decided that we were going to have another child and just a lot of things going on. And I ended up putting a halt to the seminar business, primarily because it didn't fit the type of lifestyle that I wanted for myself at that point. So awesome story, man. So over the years since 2012, you've, again, I'm going to reiterate it again. You started off as a wholesaler. You got into residual income, and ultimately you mentioned, I thought this was interesting, you're not even marketing and still doing at least 20 deals a year at this point. Why do you think that's the case?
Networking.
There we go.
Building the network out. Yeah. It's really interesting how it happens. And here's the thing. I'm of the belief, Jamel, that most people don't know how to network.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't get it. They think that it's I had one coaching student one time tell me, Brian, I hate networking. I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, I hate networking because I hate asking people for things. And I was like, that's interesting that you say that, because that's not what networking is. Right. Networking is not asking people for things. Networking really is building a relationship, to be honest.
Correct.
Let's bring it down to the very, very base, of what it is. And here's the thing. Most people don't want to put in that time. A wholesaler is a hustler, kind of by definition.
Yeah.
A wholesaler has to hustle. Hustlers don't like to build relationships. They see it as a waste of time. They see look, hey, are you a buyer? Do you want to buy this? Are you another wholesaler we could do deals with? Let's cut to the chase. And that's fine. And you might do a transaction or two, but where the lasting effects of relationship building and networking occur is over time. And it's being able to so Gary Vaynerchuk said, I'm a huge Gary V fan. He said this, I heard him say this probably almost 10 years ago, where he said, I make it a point to be 51% of every relationship that I'm in. What does that mean if you're 51% of every relationship? That means you're giving more than you're receiving, right?
Yep.
The number one key to networking and building a relationship is to give more than you take. And I would even add another component to that. Give without the expectation of receiving. Because as soon as you expect something back, you're going to get disappointed, and it's not a relationship. It's a transaction.
That's right.
And so I'm of the belief that most people don't get that. And if they can get that and truly give without the expectation, anyone can easily do 5, 10, 15, 20 deals a year just through the power of their network. And there are obviously some strategic things I do, which we could talk about if you want to, some strategic things I do to build my network and make sure people are sending me deals, things like that.
Awesome, man. So let's dig into this a little bit. So obviously the brunt of what you're doing today involves networking.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. How can the average person, because everybody's not Brian Trippe, right? So how can the average person go from where they are right now, even if they're brand new in real estate investing, or if they're brand new in business in general? The average person wanted to get started networking and utilizing some proper procedures in order to be able to build relationships. What are some of the things? What did you do?
Yeah, I'll sum it all up in one word: authority.
Authority. I love it.
If you can become the authority in your local marketplace, people will bring you all the deals. All the deals will come through you. So
and that's a big word there. That's a big word. So how do you become an authority in your local market?
So I'm glad you asked,
we know
Jamel.
exactly how to do it, but let's pretend that we don't.
So Jamel, it's interesting you say that, because I actually wrote a book called Nothing's for Sale: How to Become the Authority in Your Local Marketplace and get all the deals. Okay. And it's $7.99 on Amazon. I don't even make a penny off that. It's as cheap as I can make it so people can have it. But listen,
and just so you guys know, I'll link, if you're listening to this on the, on the podcast platform, I'm going to link, I'm going to provide a link to Brian's book. Now, is it on Audible as well?
It's not on Audible.
Not on Audible.
I wrote I'm a writer, by the way. Like, I wrote this thing. I didn't just talk, this is legit. I spent a lot of time on this.
Awesome. I'm
It's not
going
on
to
Audible.
provide a link to Brian's book in the description box on the YouTube page. So all you got to do is go to youtube.com/Jamel Gibbs and look for this video with Brian Trippe. And you're going to see Brian's face on the thumbnail there. And go in the description box of that video and click on a link, and you'll be able to get access to Brian's book. Again, $7.99. That's just a wealth of information right there for almost nothing. Be sure to take advantage of that.
Appreciate that, Jamel. So guys, authority is so huge. And here's the mistake or maybe the misconception that most people have is you can be brand new, never done a single deal, and you can still capture authority in your marketplace. And I'm going to give you a great example. There's someone in my local market. He read my book. He came to we put on events. He came to my event and he's like, you know what? He's never done a deal. And it took him another year to do his first deal. So he was patient. I'm going to get to that in a second. This guy went out and started a meetup group just because I said that's one of the things, that's one of the many ways that you can establish authority in your local marketplace. Start a meetup group. This guy had zero real estate experience. Zero, none, not a single deal. Didn't even know, he was still learning. And he went and started a meetup. It was called the Real Estate Meet and Greet. And
wow.
He had like 2 people come to the first one, maybe 4 or 5 to the next one. I showed up at one time to support him. And it took about a year. And now he is one of the biggest wholesalers in our market. And it's because fantastic. He took the time to establish true authority in the marketplace. It's not going to happen overnight, but once you start with this, and that's one example, there's 5 or 6 things that you can do. Jamel, just things that you've done. You're starting a podcast. Mm-hmm. Podcast gives you instant credibility, instant authority. You can do that and you don't even have to have done a deal. Anybody can start a podcast. It's so cheap to do. But these are the little things. Establishing authority, and once you do that, it's unbelievable how people, they automatically, in their minds, build you up to be something that you may or may not be, but that doesn't matter. You're out in front of everybody, so you must be important. So they're going to bring you the deals. They're going to bring you the private money. They're going to bring you all these things that are associated with real estate that you may not have been able to get on your own without it.
And I'm sure you get a lot of, I can't tell you countless amount of offers every day, from different people. And guys, if I don't respond to an email that you sent to the company, or if I don't see everybody's email, it's because we get bombarded with so many offers every single day. And that, like Brian said, it's because of the authority establishment. One thing that I've done locally here, when I moved from Pennsylvania back in 2014 to North Carolina, I started a Facebook group right here in my local area. Now we're approaching our first 1,000 members. I didn't do it immediately, but I started it maybe a year and a half ago, and I don't even promote the thing. I don't even market it. It just took on a life of its own. But my point in bringing that up is they see my name as the group admin. They see my company as the group admin. And at the end of the day, that automatically gives me authority. I become an authority figure to that 1,000 people that's in that group. So fantastic. And you've done it as well. Brian and I, Brian started this, I'm not sure if you want me to bring this up or not, but REI coaches, Brian would you consider yourself to be relatively new in the REI education space?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I started my meetup in 2017. So
look at that. So
really 3 years into it.
So Brian instantly gained credibility and authority in the REI education space. Now, there is a ton of guys who's been in this business. I've personally been in the REI education space since 2006, but there's guys who've been doing it like Ron LeGrand and guys like that who's been doing it a lot longer than me. But Brian instantly became a famous figure in our space because he has a podcast, REI Coaches, which is I'm not sure if it's private or not.
It's private. Yeah, it's private just for real estate coaches. Yeah.
But now think about that for a moment. So he came to the real estate coaches. I was actually interviewed by Brian, and he interviews the coaches and establishes his authority in the marketplace, because if I'm doing an interview with you, obviously on a podcast, or if I'm doing an interview with somebody else, it's almost as if the people who follow you will end up wanting to know more about me because I'm interviewing you. Does that make sense? So it's a way to establish authority in your marketplace amongst your peers, as well as amongst their following as well. It's brilliant, man. So it's so easy to do that these days. I don't want to.
Yeah.
You got to jump into that.
Yeah. Let me I just want to add one thing. That what you're describing, Jamel, is called the transfer of authority. Mm-hmm. And you see this happening, not just obviously in real estate, but you see this happening like in music.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like an up and coming artist and they put him with, someone who's really famous featuring so-and-so.
Or he opens up the show for them.
Yep. That as well. So you see this it's like if Jamel's been doing this for this long and he's bringing me, I haven't been doing this that long, but he's bringing me on his podcast. I get some of your authority.
Yep.
You're giving me credibility. And that's what this whole thing. So I'll interview you on the REI coaches thing. And by the way, I do all this exactly what you're saying for authority, to establish my authority as the guy. We do this through live events. So we put on a big live event, a live real estate investor coaching event for coaches to learn how to be better coaches and better trainers and gurus, whatever you want to call it. And we had some of the biggest names in the industry show up at this live event that I put on. It just gives me, it just rises my credibility. And maybe I never even did. Maybe I never even coached. I did, but what if I never even coached? You guys, so you don't even have to do a deal to start a meetup group. You don't have to do a deal to start a podcast, start a Facebook group. You don't have to have done a deal to do any of these things, but it gives you authority.
Yep. When I first started my education business, and this is right in line with what you're talking about here. So the first 5 years of me being in real estate, I did nothing but real estate. Around 2006, 2007, I started educating people. 2008 came around and YouTube really started picking up. I started a YouTube page, and I probably erased a lot of the older videos because of the quality of the video. But if you look at some of my older videos from the 2008 era on my YouTube page, I started establishing that authority. Then I came out with home study courses. Again, establishing authority. I had guys like, I'm not going to mention any names, but I had other guys when I wrote my first book, they were promoting my book.
Yeah.
Again, transferring that authority over to me. You see it all the time in affiliate marketing. When if Brian has a great program and I recommend that program through an email or through one of my platforms, I'm transferring an authority to Brian. He becomes awesome in that regard. And you can do the same thing in wholesaling real estate. You can do the same thing in real estate investing in general. How can a wholesaler do it? I'm going to let Brian explain that.
Yeah, I love the meetup group thing because it doesn't just attract people to bring you deals. It attracts money. And in the beginning, that's one of the big fears for people. That's one of the big, I either don't know what I'm doing or I don't have any money. So, and that's one of the misconceptions. You don't necessarily need money, but like if you say you want to start flipping houses, say you want to start buying rentals, it attracts money. When you're at the front of the room, you're in front of the microphone, you have it's just instant credibility. Whether so you're a wholesaler. This is how I like to strategically do it. I love to meet with brand new people who have not done anything yet. I want to meet with them. I'll take them to lunch and get to know them. Again, goes back to that relationship word. Build a true relationship with them. And I always end the conversation with saying something like this. Look, man, when you get a deal, please send it to me. I'm very interested. I either might be interested in buying it or I might be interested in maybe I already have a buyer.
Correct.
So, hey, you don't even have to worry about building a buyer's list. You can come to me and I'll help you sell it. And we get split deals that way. So of the 20 deals I did last year, almost all of them were deal splits. I split it with someone who brought me a deal and I already had a buyer. And it's that easy.
You know, it's kind of funny when I'm sitting back thinking about one of my original mentors. No one knows who he is. His name is Steve DiPalantino, out in Pennsylvania. So I made a lot of mistakes my first few years in the business. Steve, when I moved to Pennsylvania, he owned 120 rentals at that time, and I just thought that was the most fascinating thing in the world, that you can own over 100 houses. Steve planted in my head, and I was young. I was probably 24, 23 at the time. He planted in my head, he said, "You're going to be the most wealthiest person that I ever knew." And he told me that every time I saw him, until recently I saw him again. And he said, "I told you you were going to be the wealthiest person that I ever knew." And I'm not patting myself on the back. I don't want to tell everybody, I'm not trying to put my bank account on the table or anything like that. But Steve basically said that to me, and he fed that to me. But the reason I bring up Steve DiPalantino is because he transferred his authority from from himself to his private money to me, introducing me to his private money individuals back then. And that's how I picked up my first private money lender, so that I can become a rehabber. So I started off in a business, buying and selling houses, obviously. But then when I transitioned into rehabbing houses, it was primarily because Steve DiPalantino transferred that authority to me and just painted the picture for the private money lender. And if it came from him, the private money lender was willing to lend the money to me. Same thing happened with a good friend of both of ours, Joe. He and I'm mentioning names. I'm not going to tell you his last name, but you know exactly who I'm talking about. He had a relationship just a couple of years ago. I mean, the guy is still good friends with him, but Joe transferred authority to me as well. And he introduced me to a guy who had millions of dollars to invest in real estate. And these guys are some of my private money lenders today. I can pick up the phone and call them and say, "Hey, I have this deal. Just recently we made an offer on a 30-unit apartment building, which we were looking to get for about $900,000. And they were ready to rock and roll with the deal. I would have been able to pay cash for it. And it's because Joe transferred that authority over to me. But networking is so important. That's why going to events like what we went to back in October, just powerful events, and joining masterminds and things like that. Just powerful events to be a part of, to build on your relationship with others while you're still looking to build your personal real estate investing business and build your network out. Because how's the old adage? Your network is
your net worth.
There you go. So just a fantastic way to really get your real estate business off the ground. If you had to give, and this is a question for you, Brian, if you had to give 3 simple steps that someone can implement today to start building up their network, the easiest and the fastest ways for them to get started with it, what would you recommend?
Well, first of all, I'm a big believer in live events. Okay. So I think that real estate is local. That's pretty obvious. What's happening in Charlotte, where you're in Charlotte, right?
I'm in Greensboro. I'm about an hour away from Charlotte.
Okay. So what's happening in North Carolina is definitely not what's happening in Alabama, right? There might be some similarities, but for the most part, real estate is extremely local. But what I'd like to say a lot, because this is interesting, a lot of people don't think about it like this, but real estate is live. It's live. And that's why we named our company, our events company, REI Live. Real estate investing is live. There are people that are doing virtual wholesaling and cool, and that's awesome, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you got to have boots on the ground. You have to have
belly.
negotiating with a seller, belly to belly. And I know there's some people that negotiate contracts on the phone and stuff like that, and that's cool and that's fine. But real estate is done in a live setting, and that's why I love live events. So you said, what can you do? What are some actionable things you can do? One, go to a live event. Like, go to your local REIA. And I heard people say this all the time, Jamel. I hate my local REIA. I hate they're always trying to sell me something. They always try to sell me something I don't need. If that is the case, because look, we all know there's a lot of bad real estate groups out there. We all know. Then go for the networking. Go in the beginning. Maybe stand out in the hall. I used to do this. I would go to events. I don't care what they're saying in the meeting because the meeting doesn't apply to me. I would go beforehand, meet some people. While the meeting is going on, I'm meeting more people like out in the hallway. And then when it's over, I'm meeting more people. So yeah, Brian, it's easy for you though. You're an extrovert. You like people. And I'm like, no, I don't. I hate people. It's so hard for me to be around people. But I understand you have to develop a commonality with somebody, meet someone for the first time. So here's what I love to do. If I go to a meeting and I don't know anyone, surely I know one person. Maybe if you're brand new, you might not know anyone. And if that is the case, then go to the promoter. Go to the person whose meeting it is. Say, hey, I'm brand new. Who do you think in this room I should talk to? Okay, and he'll point someone out. But if you do know someone in there, I use this line almost every time I go to an event. I go up to someone I know and say, hey, man, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I do. Who in this room do you think I need to talk to? And they'll say something like, oh, well, do you know this guy? Do you know this person? Do you know this person? No, I don't know that person. Oh, man, they're a private money lender. They lend. Would you make a warm introduction for me? Not just say, oh, you should go talk to him. And you just say, okay, and then you kind of walk up to him. There's no, like you're saying, transfer of authority, right? I would say, will you make a warm introduction for me? Will you actually come up with me and introduce them for me? So typically when I do that for someone, I'm saying something great about this person, something great about this person. And you guys, I think you should talk because of this and this. You have this in common. It's like, great. And so it's warm and we can skip all the icebreaker stuff, right? And we can skip 15 minutes and get kind of right down to business. So that's the first thing. Get a warm introduction if you can. I'm trying to give you guys actionable stuff, right? Number two, after you get a warm introduction, ask the right questions, and it kind of goes hand in hand, be a great listener. So the right question might be not, can you help me with this? The right question is maybe, what kind of challenges are you experiencing right now in your business? And be a great listener. This is how I've built my network. This is how I built my network on that question. What kind of challenges are you seeing right now in your business? And kind of, and maybe a follow-up, like what are you doing about that? And if you listen well enough, actively listen and understand, nodding, eye contact, don't worry about the people that are walking around or maybe trying to tug on your shoulder, your eye contact, really truly trying to listen, you are going to pick up on something. You're going to pick up on, because usually when you ask someone, hey, what do you need? Whatever you need, or what can I do for you? They're going to typically say, I'm okay, or they're not going to actually give you anything. So I like to listen. They're going to give you the answer to that question, what they need, in their response to the question of what's your challenge. So when you're listening, and for someone like me who's pretty well connected in the business, I'm listening for how I can add value to them.
That's right.
Okay. Oh, they have a hole in their business, and this is their hole. And I love this question right here. Don't ask how. Don't tell them how they can fix their problem. Give them a who. Not how can I fix my problem. Who can help me fix my problem? You go back to the outsource thing. Who? So I'm constantly thinking in my mind, because I'm a networker, constantly thinking, who does this person need to know that's going to be able to help them in their business? So I'm like, hey, you know what? Have you ever met so-and-so? No, who's that? Well, they do this and da-da-da-da-da. And they're thinking like, oh, wow, that could really help me in my business. Hey, you know what? I'd love to make a warm introduction for you so that you guys can feel, kind of get right to the point, and maybe I really feel like you could help them too in this area and really give value. When you do these things, Jamel, and by the way, I'm doing all of this with no expectation.
Wow.
None.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting them to come back and scratch my back too. It's not about that. I truly want to give. And when you do this stuff, they are going to bend over backwards to repay you. It's the law of Now I'll get all my words mixed up, but it's a reciprocation. The law of
Reciprocity.
They're going to reciprocate. It's a natural instinct. You're in the South. I'm in the South. I know everybody listening is not in the South, but when someone holds the door open for you, what do you typically do? You want to hold the next door open for them, right? Yeah. It's just like, people don't want to feel like they owe somebody something. Okay. So it's like, oh, you did this. They're almost going to feel like Gary Vee says it this way. They're almost going to feel guilty that you provided them with such value that they're going to want to go over and above it. And one of my favorite books in the world is right over here on my shelf. Robert Cialdini wrote a book called Influence.
I love that book,
6
man.
laws
Absolutely love it.
Of being influential. And one of them is reciprocity, right? And what he said about, he did all these social studies, right? All these studies of just studying people and how they work in their environments. This is what he found. This is what one of the studies found. When someone does something for you, it places like such guilt inside of us, a feeling of guilt. It's not actually guilt, but it's a feeling that's like guilt, that we end up going so far above and beyond to repay by like 70%. So we don't even like repay like dollar for dollar. We go 70% above the dollar in repayment. So what if, Jamel, what if we just made this a part of who we are? Understanding that the laws of the universe are going to work in our favor if we just give. We just give.
And you give and without expecting anything back, and you will receive. Believe that. So at the end of the day, it's all about step one, reaching out and going to events, and then having someone, maybe the leader of the group, making a warm introduction for you. Step two, if you want to reiterate that for us, was
ask the right questions, be a great listener. Make sure all the questions are almost like palms up servanthood, humble questions that are about them. Because you said something earlier about the private money lender. Someone introduced you, your friend Joe introduced you, and they kind of he transferred a little bit of his authority. But here's the thing about that, Jamel. No one's going to lend you money
unless if they don't like me.
Unless they have to like you.
Yeah,
and we all hear know, like, and trust. But the key in that know, like, and trust thing is like. If you are not likable, and that's one of Robert Cialdini's 6 principles of influence. If you're not likable, they're going to turn you off.
They don't even matter. Yep.
It doesn't matter.
I'll tell you this too. That's interesting that you said that, because I can't tell you, like I said, we receive a lot of offers all the time. I can't tell you how many people they contact us in the office and they'll say the first thing they do is ask for something for themselves without offering anything at all.
Yep.
And that just completely turns us off. So I had a guy recently contact us and say, hey, I was in contact with you guys 2 years ago or a while ago, and I decided to put things on hold. How can we work together now? And the way he said it, it was all about him and not what he didn't even mention anything about bringing anything to the table.
For sure.
So that's a mistake that I see a lot of people make. People always, especially people in desperate situations where they may not understand what networking is all about. No one's gonna think about it like this, and we're thinking about it from a logical standpoint. If I'm already successful in doing what I do without you, what makes you think that? And I don't mean to say this in a mean way, but what makes you think that I'm going to invite you into my world, and you're bringing nothing to the table to allow you to benefit from what took me 20 years to build? And that's the kind of mentality that you want. And I'm saying that because that's the kind of mentality that you want to have going into the relationship.
For sure.
Think about what you can bring to help others first before you think about yourself. It may take you a little while to get to where you want to go. when I was 14 years old, Brian, I used to work in a real estate office. And thinking about it, I was an intern. I worked for free in the real estate office so I can learn the business. 14 years old. And lo and behold, a few years later, I got into real estate. That didn't happen on purpose, but it happened. The point in me bringing that up is you guys have to think about other people before you think about yourself. That's what networking and building relationships is all about. What value are you bringing to the table right now? Just because you may see a guy like Brian, who's an educator, who he has these different groups going on, doesn't necessarily mean that you can approach Brian for free advice all the time, right? And I'm sure Brian, he wants to give. He's going to provide free advice, but don't go into the relationship with that mentality. Think about what value you're going to bring to Brian in order for him to be able to be willing to introduce you to his network as well. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no, you're dead on. I did a post. It's been about a year ago. I need to bring it back to life, but I put a blog out. I have a private group for networking and connections, and I put a blog out about it every week. And I did this long post about how to befriend a millionaire, just for someone who's like, I don't know any. I didn't know any millionaires when I got started in real estate. I didn't know any. And now I know obviously tons and tons and tons, but how do you befriend a millionaire? And a lot of it had to do with what you're saying right there, Jamel, is you can't just approach a situation or any person really with me.
Right.
It's
exactly.
I just can't think it. You said you work for free. When I got started, we're talking about coaching basketball. I got started volunteering to coach 7th graders. That's how I started coaching basketball. My first job coaching basketball was I was a low-level graduate assistant having to do I had to do laundry, right? I had to do players, Division I college athletes, laundry. Talk about and I was 30. I was going back to school to get my master's degree. I was 30. It's not like I was 15. But I knew I had to pay my dues in order to get that next step up. And it's the same thing here. You got to pay your dues in a certain way. And it doesn't have to be that subservient, I guess, is doing someone's laundry. But something simple. I'll give you a great example if we still got time, Jamel.
Yeah, talk to me, man.
So there's a guy in our local market who is doing by far and away the most amount of fix and flips in our market. It's not even close. Okay. He's just blowing everybody out of the water. He is the guy. When you think of rehabbing, this guy is he's doing almost all of them. It seems like. I approached this guy when I first started the education stuff and the media, putting out videos and putting out content and things like that. I approached him and said, hey, you know what? I would love to ride around with you. So that is a selfish statement because I had something that I wanted to get out of it. But I spun it in a way to where he was going to get something big time out of it. And so this is how I approached him. I said, I would love to follow you around for a day with a camera and create content for you for free that we can put on our YouTube channel. So you're going to get content because we're going to put you out there.
Right.
But it's going to be on our channel to help us build our subscriber base on our and he was kind of, I don't know. And this was 2017 when I did this. He's like, you can come on, I like you. That goes back to the likability thing. Come on. I don't know if it's actually going to work. This guy in 2017 almost doubled his business because we started putting these videos out. And everybody's like, oh man. And he was a good personality too. And everybody's watching this stuff. And it's in our market locally. Stuff kind of went viral locally.
Wow.
And he's getting all the deals. All the realtors are calling him. All the REO agents are calling him. Right. All the stuff, the probate stuff is going to him. He's getting the stuff that's kind of hard to get. And all these agents and attorneys and stuff are calling him. And he attributes it to me doing the videos for him at the beginning of the year in 2017. And since then, we've done some other stuff together. But he helped almost single-handedly. It goes back to that collaboration thing that, him transferring kind of his authority over to me a little bit. He helped me launch our meetup group. He attends every one of them to this day. And him bringing in big names like that to just, he's there, he's going to be there. That big name's going to be there. That big name's going to be there. Well, everybody's got to be there. So we average 135, 140 people at our meetup group.
Wow.
because of people of authority are there. So this is a way you can spend something. You can be selfish. So I don't want you guys to think that you can't be selfish, because it has to be a win-win. There has to be something in it for you too. If you're going to approach Jamel, you need to be willing to maybe do work for free or close to free in hopes of maybe getting a deal split on the back end or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So I approached it with how is it going to benefit him, but I also knew, and I told him, I was upfront with him, this is how it's going to benefit us too.
That's right. That's right, man. Awesome 3-step process. Awesome example. Awesome call today. And we really appreciate you taking out the time to be able to do this for us today, man.
Jamel, you are incredible. Guys, if you have not subscribed to Jamel's new podcast, you better do it. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Jamel has got and his Instagram. Your Instagram is unbelievable right now. I appreciate it, man. I think it's amazing. Guys, make sure you are subscribed to this guy. He is crushing it right now.
Oh, no. No, man, but I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the shout out. But more importantly, make sure you check out Brian's stuff. Brian, if someone wanted to get in contact with you, where can they go?
I really, I hate to sound kind of arrogant, and I don't think it's arrogant, but Google me. Google my name. I'm everywhere. Follow me on Facebook. It's just /Brian Trippe. I've got a really cool real estate networking group. If you like this stuff about networking, little tips, like I said, I put a blog out every week, and it's just facebook.com/groups /REI networking. So /groups and /REI networking. I'm sure you'll probably put it in the show notes. And
I'm a part of that group as well.
Yeah. So that's where I put all my content. It's free.
Perfect. So I'm going to put Brian's group in the show notes. I'm also going to put the book that Brian mentioned, Influence. Fantastic book. I went through it several times. I can't express how fantastic that book is, with understanding everything that we spoke about on today's podcast. There's a lot of rules to the success laws of influence, and Robert Cialdini definitely hit the nail on the head in that book. In addition to that, I'm going to put Brian's his book link in the description as well, so you guys can check it out. Nothing's for sale. Brian J. Trippe, my man. And all the way from the Bama doing his thing. But really appreciate you joining us on today's podcast, my man. And if you had to give some final words, some words of wisdom from your multiple years of being in business, what would that be?
Let me just reiterate what you said earlier, Jamel. You got to take action. There's too many people who hear, maybe I'll bring we're in the Bible Belt down here, so I'll bring the word of God into this a little bit. Awesome. Don't be a hearer of this stuff. Be a doer, right? Don't be the work. Yeah. Don't just listen to this stuff. Don't just watch YouTube videos. Don't just read books. Go and do it. Take action. It's stunning how many people sit here and they're just YouTube junkies. Yep. And they're seminar junkies, and they don't do anything. Yep. Don't be that 99%. Be the 1% that's out there actually taking action.
Awesome. Now, one more thing, man, because you intrigued me when you intrigued my mind when you mentioned it. So you were a D1 basketball coach. What school was that?
I was at UAB for 1 year at University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I was at Troy University in Troy, Alabama for 1 year as well. So, and I did some assistant stuff too.
So you know a little bit about basketball, a little something.
I'm from Indiana, so basketball's in my blood originally.
Oh yeah, Indiana's a basketball state, man, like North Carolina. Perfect, man. Hey, it's been a real pleasure having you, man. I had a lot of fun today. And that's what these calls are all about, having a lot of fun and educating the people as well. And then giving them real life information that they can take. It's not about being nice all the time. It's about telling you what you need to hear so that you can get to where you want to go. Guys, it's been a real pleasure. And I'm looking forward to having you guys back on the next one. Talk to you then.